What is up, everyone? Welcome to the next episode of the JSON API hotel reservation stuff. And today, switch up, I'm going to use VS Code. I'm switching things up to show you guys because it's going to be a little bit better here. So the first thing we want to do, I want to test. So we created our GBT out, and it's very important. We could keep going and keep adding stuff and go to the reservation things, but I think we should focus a little bit more on tests. Are we going to test every single handler in this project? No, we're not going to do that, right? Because this course is, like I said, it's going to take so much time already. And if you need to do that, it's a time-consuming task. But nonetheless, I want to show you the importance of testing these handlers, especially. You can basically do that yourself as an example, as a test, as a how do you call that? As an assessment, right? You could do that. But we are going to test basically this authentication stuff. I think that's very important. But the first thing we need to do, if we go to user handler, or user handler here, right? And it's a little bit better here. Now I can show these folders a little bit. Maybe I think for me myself, it doesn't really matter. Maybe we could explain a little bit what you use, Vim or VS Code or something else. It actually doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what you produce, right? What you produce is what really matters. But for you guys, I think to show you the folders and everything is maybe interesting. So we have a problem here in these tests, right? Because we have this setup. Look, if we do make test here, you can see that we're going to have a fail, right? And the reason is because, and also, guys, I think why I want to show you this test in VS Code is because we can run tests, right? We can run these tests separately, which is a little bit better to do. So we have this test DB, user store, yada, 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 and this is a problem, this DB name, because we don't use it anymore, right? But the problem is that if we're going to test, we are probably going to test that against our production database, well, or deployment database, right? Or database we use for seeding. Because let me show you this thing. Can we do make test right now? That's the question. Yes, we can. But you can see dropping user collection. So the problem is that if we're going to check our MongoDB, let's, can I refresh these hotels, by the way? It's not, I think it's the users it's going to delete. Wait, let me do this, to be honest. Disconnect. We're going to connect once again, hotel reservation. You see, our users are completely disparu. They are completely gone. If you do make seats, you see this, boom. The seats are being made. So the problem is that this is not refreshing. How can we do that? I cannot even refresh that thing. Is there no refresh button or something in this? So I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to connect again, and then it's going to be here. You're going to see the users are here, right? This James Fu or seat. But if we do a make test, then I need to disconnect once again. Actually, to be honest, I can refresh these users, right? I can't. That's some user thing they need to add, in my opinion. So hotel reservation, we still have users channel. This is annoying. Am I basically talking gibberish? That could also be. Reload data. Well, they're still here. Hey, all good, right? No problem. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We fixed our tests. We just needed to delete this thing. But what I want to do is we're going to have this Mongo Connect thingy, and then we're going to have this URI here, right? This is going to be our test DB URI. Oh, that's fine. We already did that. That's actually amazing. So it's actually working pretty fine. Hey, we are good, man. We are good, guys. I thought we were not good, but we are good. So what we're going to do here, we're going to have this out handler. So we're going to make a new file. It's going to be out handler test.go. We're going to say package. It's going to be package handlers or handlers. How do we call this? API, by the way. What the hell's going on? We're going to make this API, and we're going to say func tests test authenticate t testing .t. Save this thing. It's pretty fine. So we're going to have this test authenticate. What we're going to do is we are going to... Can I do a ZZ? Let me quickly test something. No, I can't. It doesn't matter. Test authenticate. So we're going to open up our user test, handler test here on the other side real quick. So let me see how we did this, right? So we're going to have a database setup, user handler. Let's copy some stuff over here. We don't need these params. Doing this, paste that in, delete this, delete this. So it's going to be a fiber new. That's perfectly fine. User handler, we don't need this. We need an out handler. Out handler here. So we're going to say a new out handler. And we need an TDB, a user store. Yeah, that's what we need. Perfectly fine. We're going to post this to slash. It could, like I said, this slash thingy doesn't really matter. It just needs to have some route to test against. And for me, it's going to be slash. You could make this out if you want. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to say out handler. Handle authenticate. I think that's pretty fine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to post against this. That's fine. Let me quickly speak once again to our user test handler. Is this our test handler? Yes. We're going to post this params, Marshall, test new request. We're going to copy this in, paste that in here. We need to copy this thingy, just like that. Pretty fine. And then we can delete this. So we're going to make a new test request against our out here. We're gonna read the bytes. Yeah, because we're gonna authenticate ourselves. So we need to first have an authenticate request. And that's going to be... I need to double check, guys. I forget sometimes, right? The out handler, we're gonna have out params. That's fine. So we're gonna say out params. Actually, to be honest, let's make it params. Params is going to be out params. We're going to need an email. It's going to be james@foo.com, I guess, something like that. We're also going to need a password, and that's going to be super secure password. I think that was it. We're going to make these params. The next thing we're going to do is marshal these. So we're going to say b underscore JSON marshal these params. Then we have a b. So then we can actually send that payload. So what we actually could do, we could make some test helper functions later on. So we don't need to do this JSON marshal stuff. So we're going to say a byte new reader. We're gonna test against that request. It's gonna be a response. Let's do an fmt println this response real quick. And let's basically run this test real quick, right? So we're gonna have, actually we're gonna read this response real quick. That's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna say b underscore is going to be io read all. Actually, to be honest, we're going to have an out response, right? We're going to say response is going to be an var response. It's going to be an out response. And we're going to say if r is going to be JSON new decoder. I think it's response body decodes into this response, and if the error is not nil, the error r. Otherwise, we already have a response. Let's make it out response. Actually, we can test it like here. It's so amazing that we can do that now. Unpossessable entity. Yes, that's fine. So what we're gonna do first of all, we're gonna check if the response.status code is not HTTP status OK. Then we're gonna say t error f expected HTTP status of 200 but got %d, and that's going to be HTTP. No, it's going to be response status code. That's what we expected. That's what we get. We expect 200, but we get what we get. So let's basically trf. Is this going to run? It's printing out something I don't want. Here, this is what we're gonna do here, guys. Is instead of doing a t error, I'm gonna do a fatal f, because I don't want my test to basically, and it's the same thing here. I'm gonna do a fatal, because an error will basically keep processing your tests, but a fatal will stop the test, I think, instantly, and that's what we want, because we don't want to have any other junk. Yeah, so we're gonna have expected HTTP status of 200, but got a 422, an unprocessable entity, and I'm not quite sure why that is. Let's do quickly a make seed. Oh yeah, we don't have that, right? We don't have that in our test DB. That's 100% true. So what we could do is make test user. It's going to be a types user. Yes, and we are going to return insert test user. That's what we want. Actually, I think I have something in seeds I'm going to copy. This seed user thingy. I'm gonna copy that. Actually, to be honest, I'm gonna copy this. Yada yada yada. Copy that. Paste that in. There's a problem here. I'm not quite sure why this test is completely borked. Suddenly. Why is this borked insert test user? It's going to be a function. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I think we fucked it up here. That's fine. We're going to make this James at foo.com. We need to insert a test user, right? It's very important. If you want to test against it, we need to do it like that. We're going to say it's going to be James. There's going to be I'm going to try it to be some faster. Foo, super secure password, perfectly fine. Use the store. We don't have that. We're going to inject this user store inside of here. It's going to be a db user store, just like that. Yes, 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 yes. Log fatal, log fatal. What we could do is also do a testing.t here. A pointer to a testing.t, just like that. And instead of doing fatal, we could do t fatal. T fatal. And we're gonna, do we need to return this user? We could return this user, why not, if we really want. That's fine. So first of all, in test authenticate, we first, do we have, where is our test DB? Or here, we could do seed insert, what's going on? Insert test user, TDB, user store, and a T, of course, and a T, a testing. Yes, beautiful, right? So we have a TDB setup, defer, test, insert the test user here. Yeah, so we have something to authenticate against, right? So let me see, boom. Again, an unprocessable entity for some reason. I don't know what it is. Do we make a mistake? Maybe this error is a problem. Email password, that's fine. Oh yeah, I think, no, that's good. /out, also good. Post. All right, we need to double check this. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our out handler real quick to debug that. These are the params. Let's start with printing out the params here, right? If we have them, println params. What we could do is this, make it a little bit more spicy so we know it. We could make test real quick. It will test everything, right? Let me make a panic here. Handling the out handler. Let's see if we get it. Let's open up. Yeah, no. Let's make test here. Make test. Oh yeah, it's handling the out handler. That's fine. The problem is the body part. I think I know what it is. I think we. Yeah. I know what it is. My man's. I know. A little bit of a mistake. Well, a mistake is it's a little bit inconvenient because remember that we needed to set the content type to JSON enabled for the body parser to work. Well, that's something we need to do also. Is each time we're gonna this request, we need to set the header. We're gonna add a header. It's gonna be a content type, and that's going to be. I think we need to make it capitalize these things. And that's going to be an application JSON. Let's test it again. All right, so now our tests are passing, right? So basically we authenticated the user. So enable to make these tests a little bit better, what I'm always doing is I'm going to say test authenticate success, right? This is going to test and authenticate success. We're not going to print this out. We're going to check this, that's fine. What we also want to check basically is some stuff in the authenticate in the response. What do we want? Well, we want if the out response dot token is we're going to make the length here. We're going to say you could check the length of a string by this. You could say len is null, for example, or you could do something like this. Let's delete this. You could say if out response dot token equals empty. We are going to say t is going to be. I want to do fatals, by the way. You could to say fatal f expected the GVT token to be present in the out response. Right. The next thing we're going to test is the users. We're going to say if. How can we use the user ID? We don't know. Actually, we do, right? Because we can say inserted user is going to be this, right? And we're going to say if we're going to do, guys, I have a good idea. We're going to do this. If reflect deep equal the inserted user and the out response dot user. If that's not true, we are going to return expected the user to be the inserted user or something like that, right? Let's do a make test to see if that all works fine. Fail. Expected the user to be the inserted user. So we have a problem. So we are going to say fmt. Let's do some debugging. Why that's not the case? Maybe we forgot something. It's going to be the inserted user, and then we are going to log out the out response dot user here. Let's log these guys out. Let's make the test and let's see what's going on. We're going to have two things. Oh yeah, that's wait. Oh. Wait, I'm thinking here, out response user. Well, I'm a little bit of confused. I'm going to open up these user types. We don't have anything, right? We have a password. It doesn't matter. It's inserted. We don't return that probably. That's the case. I think that's going to be the problem. This is going to be the password. This is his password, right? And we do not return the password from our JSON. Remember that I told you that we don't gonna do that, but we have it from the inserted thing. So instead of comparing, what we could do is we could say inserted user dot encrypted password is going to be is a string. We're gonna set that to empty, and then make test. And now the test passes, right? That's good. That's good behavior. So we're gonna make a logging. We're gonna say set the encrypted password to an empty string, because we do not return that in any JSON response. Right? Fine. So if you make tests, it's all going to be fine. We have a cool test, which basically tests the success. Now we're going to test the failure, right? So how are we going to do that? We're going to do that in another function. I'm going to copy this whole shebang here. Boom. Paste it in, and we're going to say test authentication failures. Failures. Yes. And guys, I'm not going to lie. You know, I made a video about switching to Vim, but hey, using VS Code, for some reason, it feels good. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it back. I'm feeling it back. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna test a failure here. That basically means we're gonna insert this user. We're gonna keep everything the same. The only thing we're gonna change is these out params, right? So we need to do a couple of cases, to be honest, and we could do the same thing. These out params here. Let's say we're gonna authenticate with we're gonna say authenticate failures. Authenticate with wrong password failure. Well, basically, authenticate with wrong password. Everybody knows it's going to be a failure, right? So it's going to be super secure password not correct. Something like that. And if we do a make test, you're going to see what's going to happen. One test is going to fail. Right? So you see, expected a status of 200 but got 500. And that's basically because, and we need to do our error handling actually very fast because we need to test these status codes and we don't have the good status codes for now. And so that's something we're going to spend a whole episode on. So we are not done yet. Like I said before, you guys are going to know everything. Every single aspect of making these things. You're going to know. I'm thinking. Oh, yeah. So this is basically not correct, but this test should pass, right? Because it's not correct, so it cannot authenticate. So how are we going to do this? We're going to say that the status code, that's a problem, right? The status code is not going to be 200, right? It's going to be another one. Let me quickly search something up because I really want to have this already done. So I'm going to say Golang Fiber. Actually, here. Let me open up Fiber real quick. I'm going to check handlers. How can I return send string? Yada, no. Custom headers. I don't want to set a header. I want to return a status code. That's what I want to do. Params from. Yeah. It's all good. Anyways, this is cool, man. You can do all these if you want. But you can do a lot of stuff here, but like I said, keep it simple. This is constraint and everything. You guys should check this out if you really want to take it to the next level. God damn it. Status codes. I want to see how I can do status codes. See the status code. Hey, that's amazing. We can make... Alright, we can do it like that. That's amazing. Let me open up out handler real quick because invalid credentials should be something... That's going to be an error. That's problematic. What we could do in this case... we could make something like invalid credentials. We can make it, I'm gonna make it a strict. You could make it invalid credentials response, which is going to be maybe a status int, JSON, let's call it an MSG string. Actually, you can make it a generic response. I'm thinking out loud. I'm thinking out loud. Generic response because a status in an MSG, right? Because it's going to be a generic response. So we could return that here and we could marshal that, right? We could do something like return. We could do C status HTTP what do they have? Authenticated? Huh. Are we going to do a bad request? And then we're going to say JSON. And we are going to return a generic response of... Do we need the status? Maybe we could do something like this, type string. Look at this. I'm trying. I'm actually trying. I'm being creative. That's a part of coding, right? I'm doing something I never ever did, actually, to be honest. So I'm going to say to see if it's any good. Type, for example, error, and we're going to say that the message is going to be invalid credentials. And then we could say, for example, like this, even better, func. Return is going to be invalid credentials, which is going to return a generic response. And not a pointer. We don't want to handle it pointers here. So we're going to say, to be honest, look at this. I'm going to try to make it as clean as possible. I'm going to copy this whole shebang. Actually, it's going to return an error. And we're going to say it's going to be a fiber context. Look at this. Fiber context constraint. CTX. Right? And we're going to return this thing. And now, instead of doing this, we are just going to say here, we are going to say return invalid credentials with the context here. And we can do it here. And that's it, right? So now we have something cleaner made. Look at this, guys. Hey, this is amazing. So now we are going to back to our test handler. So let's clear the screen, make test real quick. Boom. So now we're going to have 400 because it's a bad request. That's fine. Now we can have actually something to test out. This is going to be wrong password. So we want to have a bad request status. So we're going to say if status code is not HTTP bad request. So we want to have 400 in this case. That basically means we don't need this out response because this out response is not going to work because we're not going to return an out response. But what are we going to return? A generic response, and we know exactly what's going to be in it. So we're going to say that the response could be an error response also. We need to think about that. So we're going to say JSON, a new decoder. And the error is not null. Let's do a t-fatal edge. Right. And we're going to have a gen response. So we're going to say if gen response dot type is not, for example, errors. I'm not quite sure if that's the best approach. We're going to say t-fatal f expected gen response type to be error, but got percentage s gen response type. Like I said, is this finite? Probably not. Is this a final solution? Probably not. But we wanna, then we're gonna say if gen response type message is not equals to invalid credentials, I expect the gen response message to be invalid credential. Actually, to be honest, we're going to do it like that. We're going to quote this again, like this, actually, to be honest, invalid credentials. Of course, if you want to change this string to invalid credentials to wrong credentials or something, then you need to change it everywhere. So you could probably make this a variable, to be honest. But got this, and it's going to be gen response dot I'm giving you ideas and tips, right? That's what I'm doing here. Make test. Can't even type. Make test. Let's go. Yeah. Insert user declared not used. Of course, because we don't care about this inserted user. By the way, actually, yeah, we don't care. We're gonna delete this. Just do it like that. Save. Make test again. Press enter, and hopefully it's okay. Everything is passing, so we are testing authenticate with wrong password, testicate authenticate success, testicate, and we test our post user from the beginning. So that's it. Let me see how far we are. We are basically at 33 minutes, perfectly fine. So did we test everything in depth? Of course not, but this will give you a good idea on how to do it, right? I cannot basically make the whole project for you because then we are basically months and months in the same thing. I just want to cover you how you could do it and how you can come up with, be creative. Don't always look the internet for solutions, especially not if you're in a learning phase, right? Of course, if you're working for a company, that's something else, right? If you're working for a company and they ask you something, you want to do it pinpoint precise. But if you're learning, like in this case for me, I'm not afraid to fail, right? I'm teaching you these concepts. It's a course. You guys paid me a lot of money, and I'm not willing. I'm taking my time here. You know what I mean? I do not want to make this course as rapidly done and just do the basics, and I want you to see how to come up with things. For example, this generic response. But it works fine. Is it the best? Not yet. But I think something with this generic response can be interesting to prevent duplicative code and to give us nice errors to the front-end screen, right? For example, if we do a make run here, let's do a make run, right? So it's going to start this thing up, and we're going to do a request here. That's a little bit nasty. Can I help? Is in the way. So look at this, how beautiful, man. So let's so we're gonna send this. It's gonna be unauthorized. What was I actually want to test? I know what it was. It was this authentication error. This authentication error I want to show. So we're gonna have this body. Let's make it a wrong password, and we're gonna send that. You see, now we're gonna have a bad request here. And we're going to see the type is an error. So the front end knows, okay, it's a generic response. It's going to be an error. So it can colorize this to red. And the message is invalid credentials, something like that. And we even could do a meta. We can add a meta field, so we can provide even more context for the front end to process, right? So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's from the mistakes we are all gonna learn, right? Of course, there's a big difference between making a project 100% complete and making a project up to 80%, right? That's a big difference, right? The 80% will go much faster than the last 20%, right? But it's the core mechanics of the project are going to be built inside of these 80%, and that's where you can be creative. And then in the last 20%, you can make it pinpoint precise, and all the rough edges can be away. But don't be afraid to experiment, guys. Thanks for stick with me here in this episode. Thanks for the support. Thanks for pursuing the course. If you have questions, jump into the Discord, ask me some questions, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.